Welcome back to a new episode of the Leading Yourself podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I get a lot of questions about, and one of my personal favorite topics morning routines. And specifically, we're going to be talking about resetting your morning routine. We often hear that routines are about consistency, but that doesn't mean that they have to be static. If your morning routine is not longer serving you, it's time to make a change. In today's episode, we're going to guide you to resetting your routines, whether they've become a chore, a source of guilt, or if you're starting from scratch. I got your back. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. Before we kick off today's episode, and I already recorded this episode and I realized halfway through that I didn't mention this, so I'm adding this little segment right here to lay out expectations of today's podcast. Not only today's podcast, but this week. So what I decided to do is to record this podcast where I give you a high-level view on how to reset your routines, and I'm going to share with you the building blocks of my morning routine. But the idea is that every day this week, we're going to have very short little episodes that will deep dive into each step of resetting your routine. And to guide you alongside this, because I want you to actually reset your morning routine, not just listen to the podcast. So if you really want to either build your morning routine or reset your morning routine, go to the show notes of the podcast episode. I have created a Notion template to walk you through this challenge. It's going to contain all the questions that we are going to explore in this mini reset your routine challenge. And it's also going to include a build out and track tool to help you build and track your morning routine or the elements of your morning routine, and not only your morning routine, but any routine throughout the day. I'm also including as a bonus an affirmation board. I love affirmations as part of morning routine, and I've created a board that will help you get started with affirmations if you decide and choose that this is something that you want to incorporate into your morning routine. So go check out the link on the show notes of this podcast episode. I will add the link in every episode this week so you can follow along and do the work as you're listening to me walk you through the different steps on how to reset your morning routine. And now let's dive into today's episode. Okay, let's talk about morning routines. And before we get into the how, I want to explore the why. Why do we have morning routines in the first place? It's not about the steps or what we do during our morning routines, right? It's about the benefits and the feelings that we want to cultivate from that routine. Your routines can be anything you want them to be. They can be short as 5 minutes or as long as 2 hours. That is something you need to decide based on what feels good to you. The reason why morning routines are so important, at least for me, is because I am a better version of myself when I start my day with my morning routine. For me, my mornings are about feeling energized and inspired. I want to set the tone for the day ahead. So my routine prioritizes activities that boost my mental and my physical health. And I know that if I don't do them in the morning, they might never happen during the day, like exercising, for example, or journaling. If I don't get those things done as part of my morning routine, I probably won't get to do them during the day because life gets on the way. And here's the thing, if I avoid my morning routine, if I, for whatever reason, skip my morning routine one day, I know I don't have the same levels of energy. I know that I don't show up in the same way. People get a better version of me if I invest in my morning routine. And that is my why. That's why I start my day with my morning routine. Because that, as I said, sets the tone for my day ahead and helps me feel better, feel energized, and show up as a better version of myself. So let's dive into how you go about resetting your morning routines or starting a new morning routine. I think it all starts by defining your morning don'ts, right? It's essential that you identify what you don't want in your mornings. What is your to don't list? What doesn't make you feel good? For example, for me, it's getting lost in my phone or drawing in emails. I used to wake up and the first thing that I would do is go and check my emails, go and check my social media right out of bed. To avoid this, I physically distance myself from my device and set my phone on morning routine mode. What is this morning routine mode? Um, Basically, in morning routine mode, all my important notifications are silenced, and my home screen displays only workout and motivation apps, basically the apps that I need during my morning routine. Everything else, it kind of disappears from my screen. That way, I stay away from things that don't serve me well in my morning routine. This simple tweak helps me start my day with intention rather than with distraction. Now, the next step is to audit your current routine. What's already working well? What do you love about it? In my case, I cherish moving my body in the mornings. It's a game changer for my focus and happiness throughout the day. So, working out is an essential piece of my morning routine. Practicing gratitude is another essential piece of my morning routine. And I'll share with you all the things that I do as part of my morning routine, but I want those things to just be an example, an inspiration. At the end of the day, you need to make your routine yours. You need to define how your routine looks like for you so it serves you and it doesn't become a chore. Now, I'm going to go through each of these steps very quickly in today's episode. And what I'm planning to do, and I should have said this at the beginning, is that every day this week, I'm going to deep dive in each of these steps. So let's look at this as a little mini challenge for you to reset your routines this week. So by the end of the week, you will have thought through all of these things and you will have your renewed morning routine for the fall. That is our goal this week. That is my goal for you this week, anyways. So we said we start with what are your morning don'ts? Then we audit our current routine and we ask ourselves what's already working well. What do we love about our morning routine? The next thing that we need to do is to prioritize what matters, meaning identifying the activities that matter most to you. What aligns with you and your morning routine? Why, right? Is it meditation? Is it journaling? Is it exercise? Or simply a quiet cup of coffee? Prioritize these activities. And as you go through prioritizing what matters most, we get into crafting your ideal morning routine. With all of these insights, it's time to craft that ideal routine. And we'll explore some strategies this week to incorporate those chosen activities seamlessly into your routine. Now, I also want to share with you tips to overcoming common challenges that will arise during your morning routine, like time constraints, motivation dips. These things happen, right? Remember, a reset isn't about perfection, it's about progress. You are never going to get your perfect morning routine, but you're going to make progress towards your perfect morning routine. Lastly, we'll discuss the importance of flexibility. Your routine can adapt to your changing needs and your circumstances. And for me, that means regularly checking in with myself and asking myself if my morning routine continues to serve me. A lot of times, when we start a morning routine, we keep doing it out of habit, but it's not longer serving the purpose for which it was designed. That has happened for me several times, and I would have not noticed unless I took a time and pause to think about it and ask myself some of the questions that I'm sharing with you today. At the end of the day, you want your morning routine to work for you and not to become a chore. So it is important to go through all of these questions and think about all of these things. So I'm going to summarize what are those steps to reset your morning routine. And as I said, every day this week, we're going to go deeper into one of them. So the first one is, what is your why? Why do you want to have a morning routine? How do you want to feel, or your morning routine make you feel? Or how will your morning routine set the tone for your day? The second thing is defining your morning don'ts. Again, we said, what are the things that are not serving us? What are the things that we don't want to spend time in our morning routine? How do we don't want to start our day? The next step is to audit your current routine. You're going to ask yourself, what is already working and what do you love about your current routine in case that you already have one. Step number 4, you're going to prioritize what matters. You're going to identify the activities that matter most to you. Step number 5, you're going to craft your idea routine. And then you need a plan on how you're going to overcome the challenges that are going to come your way. Because it's not about if, it's about when they will show up. But don't worry, because this week we're going to dive into all of those things. Now, I want to share with you how my morning routine looks like as an example, as an inspiration. And then, as I said, during the remaining of this week, we're going to deep dive into each of the steps on how you can reset your own morning routine. So, let me share with you a little bit about my morning routine. And before I share how my morning routine looks like, I want to share that establishing a morning routine has been a life changer for me. I said you're gonna transform your mornings, but for me it's been more like transforming my life. And I know that might sound like I'm exaggerating, but when I say that, it's the truth. Before establishing my morning routine, I felt I was always living day by day, always in firefighting mode. I started my day stressed because I was late, not being able to spend quality time with my family, or making progress in achieving my dreams. For years, I tried to start working out, and I gave up as many times as I attempted to start. I felt frustrated because I was not able to make progress towards achieving my personal goals as fast as I wanted. For example, this podcast. I thought about those things, I talk about those things, I dream about those things. And the truth is, I never took concrete steps to achieving them. But since I established my morning routine, I feel full of energy every day, and I am more positive, more mindful, and more present throughout the day. I have been consistently working out 6 days a week for 5 years now. And as to my podcast, well, we're almost on episode 300, actually more than that if you count the 6 a.m. episodes. And I've been doing this podcast for over 4 years now. My morning routine has really changed my life. Now, as I said, a morning routine is something very personal. My morning routine might look very different than yours, and that is completely okay. You need to build the routine that best fits your lifestyle and that better supports you in becoming the best version of yourself. So, all that being said, and as I said, this week we're going to explore that step by step. I want to share with you what are the building blocks of my morning routine. Every time that I take the time to pause and reflect on whether my morning routine is serving me or not, I look at each of these blocks of my morning routine and I ask myself, are they serving me? Sometimes I have changed the entire block itself. Sometimes I made tweaks on how that block looks like for me. You're going to understand this once I share the block. So here we go. The first thing is to hydrate. Water is so essential. So I like to start my day by drinking a glass of water. The second component of my morning routine is to incorporate movement, right? I wake up 1 to 2 hours before everybody else in my home. My morning routine has evolved, right? It started with 15 minutes and now it's about an hour and a half. And I like to wake up before anyone else in my house wakes up. And the first thing that I do after drinking my water is to hit play on a workout. I work out in my house, in my basement. I bought a Netflix of workouts and it's called Beachbody On Demand. I'll put a link on the show notes if you're interested in incorporating workouts to your routine, but you don't have the time or you have that time constraint of not being able to drive to a gym. These have been life changing for me because I can do them on my basement. I don't have any commute time and they really work and they're really fun. And there's hundreds of workouts to choose from. So, depending on the season I'm in, I will choose the workout program that best fits my needs and meets me where I am. So sometimes it might be lifting weights, sometimes it might be yoga, sometimes it might be cardio. It depends on the day, it depends on the season. And the thing is, I always start my day with movement. That helps me feel more energized during the day. And it's one of the first things that I do upon waking up. Another thing that I do even before my workout is a gratitude practice. So every morning I write down the 5 things that I'm grateful for. Starting my day with a gratitude mindset helps me to stay positive throughout the day and be more present and mindful of everything happening in my life and around me. I would have to say that this has been a very consistent practice throughout the last 5 years that I've been consistent with my morning routine. The next block is to get inspired. Now, this, depending on the season, might look differently. For me, my dreams inspire me. So, at one time, the idea of making my dreams a reality was my main motivation. So, one of the things I used to do in my morning routine, I don't do this anymore, to be honest, but I'm considering reincorporating this now in the fall, is to write down my 10 dreams that I want to accomplish in the next 10 years. For you, this might look like reading an inspirational quote or meditating. And I've done all of those things. Actually, I do all of those things. So every day, just like I share in the 6 a.m. club, I pick a random quote and I think about, okay, what is this quote telling me today? And I reflect a little bit about it. Most of the time, I do that while I'm walking on my treadmill. I have been trying to incorporate meditation into my morning routine, and my meditations are 5, maximum 10 minutes long. Whatever it is, do something that inspires you and sets your heart on fire. And this is one block that has changed a lot over time, depending on the season, depending on how I'm feeling, depending where I am. I adjust how getting inspired looks like for me. Another block of my morning routine is to get focused. So I am not able to focus on all my goals at once. So I like to identify the one thing that I can do this week or today that will move me closer to realizing one of my goals. Getting focused can also be going through my calendar and defining and looking at what meetings I have today. Am I ready for those? Is there anything I need to do so I can show up as my best today? Getting focused can also look like being intentional, setting intentions for the day. How do I want to show up today? What are my intentions for today? Another block of my morning routine, and this one is it's one that I can't do much about or change in many ways, is to get ready. So this for me looks about physically getting ready, like taking a shower, getting ready for the day, so then I can wake up my kids and get them ready and out of the door to go to school. And the last thing about my morning routine is to fuel my body with the right foods. So breakfast is an important part of my morning routine, is the last step on my morning routine. You probably have heard from your grandparents that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Making sure that I eat a nutritious and healthy breakfast is key for me. That sets the tone for the day. If I don't have a nutrition dense breakfast, I'm more likely to give into cravings during the day, to give to emotional eating or stress eating, or be snacking all day long. So for me, my breakfast is really, really important and it's a non negotiable for me. So, those are the 7 blocks of my morning routine. I'm going to repeat them for you: hydrating, get movement in, be grateful, get inspired, get focused, get ready, and fuel my body with the right foods to start the day. So, that's how my morning routine looks like. Now, as I said, your morning routine can look very different than mine. My routine right now takes about an hour and a half to complete. Yours can start with 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. That's how mine started. In fact, that would be one of my main tips if you are just starting with creating your morning routine. And that is, don't try to go from 0 to 100 miles per hour in a week. Don't try to copy what my morning routine looks like on week 1. I've been doing this for 5 years. It has evolved over time. So don't compare yourself with other people, whether it's me or other people. A lot of times, we search in the internet ideas for morning routines, and they are complicated, they're long, and that's why we don't get to build a consistency, because it's hard to start with something as robust as this. When I started by waking up 15 minutes earlier. And my morning routine looked like enjoying a cup of coffee while I was planning my day. That's how my morning routine started. All these other blogs that I mentioned to you today, they came over time. And every time that I pause to reevaluate my morning routine, I make small tweaks here and there. As I said, sometimes I change a complete block. Those are pretty stable now. And what I do is to make tweaks on how that block actually looks like, and choosing things that always serve me. Don't try to emulate someone else's morning routine, because that might not be what you need. You need to figure out what works for you. And this week, we're going to go step by step on how you can reevaluate your morning routine so you can make it your own. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow about the first step on reevaluating your morning routine. I'll see you tomorrow.